very, very quickly we'll go through succession. This is a fairly easy concept. It's from chapter 20. However, I have seen lots of questions about biological succession on example EOC questions. So these are the two things that you'll need to be able to do. Describe the sequence of events and analyze factors responsible for the changes associated with biological succession. So what is ecological or biological succession? Both terms are correct, but it's the gradual, sequential regrowth of a community of a species in an area. So there's a definite sequence that goes with this, and that's something that you'll need to know. So there are two types. You have primary succession, which occurs where no life has existed before. The best examples of this would be a new island formed by a volcano. A polar ice cap has recently receded, and there's nothing underneath except for the ground. A good key way to recognize this is that there is no true soil. Okay, there haven't been any plants there. There's no good growing soil. Secondary succession is when the ecosystem has been damaged for some reason and there's really not anything left. So a forest fire, or due to human activities such as logging, where we come in and we clear everything out, or when we come in and we clear out a field of land to plant crops, and then once the farmland is abandoned and it goes back to its kind of native state, that would be considered secondary succession. Again, with the soil, there is soil there in secondary succession, and something has already lived in that soil. It was just damaged or removed for whatever reason. It could be natural causes or human activity. A climax community is a somewhat stable state after all the stages of ecological succession have happened. And that's the end of this show, but I'm going to go back to some of the benchmark questions that we've had and some practice EOC questions so you can see what we mean by stages of succession. There's also a good video to watch on this. And we've done this question as bell work, but it never hurts to go over it again. Okay. So here, in this question, it says in an ecosystem, the species that grow and produce the most offspring become the most abundant organisms. Over time, the dominant species in an ecosystem change as the result of influence of several factors. The diagram shows how secondary biological succession that begins in a field in southeastern United States occurs. So, in biological succession, you have some damage that's done. So here the forest is chopped down for farmland, and then the farm is abandoned, so it's going to go back to its native state. The first thing that happens in secondary succession is that you get some young plants that grow, these annuals, these things that die out year after year. So flowers and grasses and weeds, things like that. In the next 3 to 4 years, as those annuals grow each year, you have some other herbs and some taller grasses that start to grow. And then you get some smaller shrubs in the next few years, along with the flowers and the plants and the wild flowers. The shrubs are soon, in about 10 years or so. Pine trees, various types of pine trees will start to grow. And then in another 20 years or so, you'll have a hardwood forest begin to grow. And then the hardwood forest matures in about 50 years to 75 years. And then you end up with the same sort of the hickory and oak forest. You end up with the same type of ecosystem that you had before. Now, this would be considered a climax community because it's going to be fairly stable. The hickory and oak forest will hang around for a couple hundred years before the hickory and the oak start to die off, and they'll actually be, as they die off, they'll be replaced with pine trees again, and so you'll go back to this point in the cycle and start over. So ecological or biological succession is simply kind of when the plants and the animals take over again. There's some good videos on YouTube that go through this if you need some more help, but that's it.